After a PhD in information science, Josephine Wapakabulo worked for Rolls Royce in the UK and Germany and studied for an EMBA at INSEAD. In 2016, she was appointed CEO of UNOC, Uganda's new national oil company. Welcome to Alumni Experience, Josephine. What was your brief at UNOC when you were hired?
So basically it was to be the next Petronas, Petrobras, Sonangol, Saudi Aramco. So Uganda's discovered oil, it's been proven. In about 3 years' time we'll be doing full production, starting at about 240,000 barrels. And then Uganda needed to have an entity that handled its commercial interests. So following a model of many other countries, they set up a national oil company. The board was in place, they needed to set up the company. I was recruited as employee number 1. For 3 months it was just me in my office. We're now 50. And the mandate was across the whole value chain of the petroleum sector, so upstream, midstream, downstream, getting it out, transporting it, using it, to set up and put in place all of our commercial interests working with different partners. And so, in the next 3 to 4 years, there'll be $15 to $20 billion of investment in the production, a new refinery, a new crude pipeline, new storage terminals, and an industrial park. And UNOC, the entity that I lead, the National Oil Company, has interests and an equity stake across all of that.
Were you daunted by the scale of the project?
I try not to think of the scale of what we're doing because Uganda's GDP is about 24 billion. So this is going to be a game changer. But the engineer in me compartmentalizes and say, right, we've got to get the production done, get a refinery, get a pipeline. They're engineering projects, we can do this. And so that was my mandate. So my first phone call was the logo. I called a friend of mine and said, do you know anyone who can design a logo? We have literally nothing.
So you're starting with nothing. What do you do first? How do you get started on something this big?
I've just always been sort of taught that if you don't know something, get people around you who do. So I don't design logos. I found someone who could do it very well. We needed a strategy. I've done strategy development, but not specifically in oil and gas for a national oil company. So we got some people from PwC, South Africa Oil and Gas Group to facilitate strategy development. I did oil and gas in my PhD, but that wasn't my speciality. So I've hired the best management team of specialists in refining, in pipelines, in legal aspects. So for me, it's more why I think people wonder why I don't get overwhelmed is I've got fantastic people around me who are the best at what they do. And all I see my role is just coordinating that and sort of driving that in a leadership sort of way. But I'm very cognizant when I don't know something, but I know there's someone who does.
Lots of people, especially people who study here, want or dream about being CEO of a big company. What's the reality like?
It never stops. I think that's the biggest reality that's hit me is, particularly a founding CEO, it feels so personal. And so I never get to switch off. And the buck stops with you. There's no, I'll just check with my boss, or I can challenge my boss. Why isn't that working? When people come and say this isn't working, it's on me. There's no one else to sort of point to. And I feel that accountability and responsibility very strongly. So ideas of holiday and leave and evenings and weekends just go out the window. It just becomes your life.
I'm sure that a lot of your job is political. How do you deal with that?
I think I've realized 99% of this job is managing politics. And that's not just politics in the political realm, it's different stakeholders. And so there is a lot of interest, there is a lot of focus. And that drives a lot of discussion, debate. And it's just managing the right stakeholders and managing key stakeholders that are the decision makers, are very influential. And that's everything from the host communities where this work is going to be done. A lot of our resources in national parks that are very sensitive. So there's different stakeholders there. So it's a mammoth stakeholder management task. And messaging and time and patience and bringing people with you, especially in that collaborative sort of work environment.
I think lots of people kind of trip up on this issue of managing stakeholders. What's the secret?
It's something I learned at Rolls Royce from a very good mentor. I came in, you know, I'm smart, I know what I'm doing, and I would hold these meetings and lose people. And I'm like, I have all the right information, I know what I'm talking about, I think it's a great message. And I had a mentor who really worked with me and was very straight and direct on how I managed people. And that meetings and sessions are actually the end point. If you haven't got people with you by that point, the chances of winning them in a meeting are very slim. And so most of your work has to be before that point in time. And he really was significant in teaching me that. And that's something I've tried to build, learn, grow on in my career. Is it's less about those meetings, those big moments. It's the interaction between then, bringing people with you, staying in the relationships, engaging them in different forums, finding out their interests. All of that makes life a lot easier in those critical moments.
What kind of career advice would you have for INSEAD, MBAs, EMBAs who want to follow in your footsteps?
I would say be open and don't, we all come with preconceptions of what we want to do. I'm going to become an engineer and this is to move me more in the management executive side. And I sort of 12 months after INSEAD had no job and had quit a job, but it was all because of the softer things I learned here about, you know, going through INSEAD, being a leader doesn't mean you're always going to get it right, you're never going to fail, your career is just going to be perfect. It's about owning your journey and not being afraid to say, I don't know this, I'm learning this hasn't worked. That has done more for me and my career than the perfect trajectory of I left, I got promoted and I got promoted again. It was like, I tried this that I never tried, it didn't work, I went here, I hadn't planned to do this. It was not a seamless journey, but I was open and I owned the fact that it wasn't going to be perfect and that's okay. And so I think it's more, I would say, gain as much as you can from the classes, from the relationships you build, the opportunities, and then just be a bit open on the journey afterwards. Don't box yourself into the next 5 steps are, because it's quite shocking, even catching up with other alumni, how varied the journey can be after that.